It's Michael Houghton here for Play Practice Play Lesson 5, and this week we're looking at channeling. So for the lesson, we're just going to do our usual warm-up. We're going to play a game of Rob the Nest. For our play one, we're going to do a small-sided game with a 3-point goal. For our practice, we're going to do a channeling drill, and then we're going to go back into our game. And that's our hockey session. So let's look into how that's broken up. So again, we're just going to do our usual warm-up. At this stage, mix it up as much as you can to keep it interesting for your players. We're then going to play a game of Rob the Nest. I will jump over to my graphics to show you guys how that works. So yeah, basically we've got different color cones here. The yellow is the balls and the black dots are the players. So I would usually start by just setting up 4 cones in the middle area and putting as many balls as you have in there. If you are doing this as part of a group training, you may not have access to as many balls as you would like. So maybe consider doing this out of sync. So maybe do play one first and then come back to this in this case, just to maximize the number of balls you have. I'll try and then set up different cones around the place. So in this case, this is for 3 groups. If I had a 4th group, I'd set up here. You can really have as many groups as you need. Ideally, try and make the teams even. It doesn't matter entirely if they're not, but usually the game is better if you do have even teams, so just try and factor that in. Once you've got your team set, you can see the players are in here. Very simple. You simply blow your whistle. The players run into the circle. They all run in at the same time. They get a ball and they dribble the ball back into their nest. And it's basically a race to see how many balls the players can get back into their coned area. Just watch a couple of things. Make sure that players only get 1 ball at a time. You'll sometimes find that players will try and get cheeky and grab 2 or 3 balls at a time. So just look out for that. And usually I would do this in two different attempts. So my first attempt would just be to blow the whistle, and once all the balls are gone and they're in nests, I then stop the game. I then count how many balls are in each nest, and the winner, or the team that wins, is the one with the most balls. I then blow my whistle and ask the players to put the balls back into the middle, so they get to a little bit more dribbling. And then I say to them, right, we're going to play again, but this time, once all the balls are gone, I will blow my whistle twice, and you can go and then steal balls from the other nests. I do give a constraint to say that you can't stand and guard the nests. So basically the idea is that they get the balls, they dribble it back. Once all the balls are gone from the middle, they can then go and steal balls from the other nests and maybe run that for a minute or 2, and then blow the whistle, and you can then count the winner to see who has got the balls. This game is much loved, particularly by smaller children. They tend to like this game a lot. But either way, it's a good fun game regardless, even if it's at senior level. So that's our warm-up game. Let's jump on to the next one, which is play 1. So with play 1, we're going to look to do this for 12.5 minutes. And it's very, very simple. We're just looking to set up our standard small-sided game, which is a game which is 4v4, 5v5, or maybe 6v6. And all we're doing is that we're just adding a couple of cones at the top of the circle. And if the ball injects through those cones, and a goal is scored, then that goal is worth 3. So I'll jump over for my explanation. This is incredibly simple. So again, this isn't the world's best drawing, but basically I've got a couple of goals here. You can see that I've set up a couple of circles. If you're playing on maybe a quarter pitch or even an eighth of a pitch, then you can always just get some drop-down lines to generate these circles if you want to. So that's quite useful because obviously in normal hockey, we would be playing into a circle. So set up some sort of circle with some drop-down lines if that suits. And then at the very top, you're just going to place some cones at the top. And all we're saying to players is that if the ball comes through here and the goal is scored, then that's going to be worth 3 points, right? No, not my best 3. But if the ball comes through here and the goal is scored, then that's only going to be worth 1. All right, and that's the only constraint that we're giving. We're not even necessarily explaining what we're doing. This game actually explores 2 different concepts. It explores the concept of channeling, which I'll explain in a second, and it explores the concept of trying to get our forwards to attack through the top of the circle. All right, statistics show that something like 70% of goals are scored when the ball travels through the top of the circle. So from an attacking point of view, it's quite good for us to be targeting this channel here. And then from a defensive point of view, the idea being that the players know that the ball needs to travel through here to be 3 goals. So we're going to try and get them to deliberately try and move players away from from these areas. All right, so we're trying to get them to move away from the top of the circle and move to the channels, basically, which is exactly what we try and do when we play hockey. So without even explaining what channeling is, and even for myself explaining to you guys as coaches what channeling is, I've immediately given an explanation of, or I've immediately given an incentive to the players to try and do that. And the easiest way to explain how to do that is that when we're defending the top, we're going to try and push the player or make the player move in a various direction. That's basically what channeling is. All right, so that could be as simple as us, and you can watch a video for me doing this now, as us moving our body and putting our stick down in a certain direction to make a player move. Or sometimes it might be holding our stick in reverse to try and actually encourage them to go inside of us rather than outside of us, and vice versa. So it can be sometimes just holding the stick down this way to try and get them to go down our left channel. All right, so again, it's about trying to see if we can get our players to adapt to doing that defending, knowing that they're going to be trying to keep players away from the top of the circle. And so with play one, we're not even trying to make too many explanations at this stage. We can explain that today we're doing channeling if we want at the start of the session, but we don't need to go into too much details at this stage. That's reserved for the drill. So let's jump over to that now. All right, so this is just a basic channeling drill. It doesn't have a specific name. It's one that you'll see quite often through hockey trainings. I don't know if it actually has a proper name, but I'm going to try and attempt to explain it anyway. So basically, it's very, very simple. You just use a small area of the pitch. I'll typically set up maybe 2 blue cones here, and then at a right angle, 2 red cones here, or something like that, as long as the cone's a different color. All right, we start with 2 defenders typically, and we're going to look to rotate these defenders so that everybody gets a go. So maybe start with 2 defenders. They'll go one at a time for 3 or 4 rounds of this, and then swap them out because you're going to get pretty tired pretty quickly. We have our balls over here in a line of attackers, and all we're saying to our attackers is that they need to try and dribble the ball through the 2 coned areas. And if they get their ball through these 2 cones, that's going to be worth 3. And if they dribble through these cones, then it's going to be worth 1. All right, so that's all we're doing. We're not really giving them any other explanation, okay? And this is where we're going to try and get onto our technical correction a little bit. So the idea will be we'll blow a whistle each time. The defender's going to come out here. Naturally, they're going to try and defend these 2 gates here because they know that that's going to be worth 3. Our ball carriers then going to start dribbling the ball, and they're going to try and get the ball through this gate here. If our defender does a good job, then they might find they can't get in here, and they're forced to basically dribble the ball through here. So this is kind of a win for the defender. Even though they're giving a point away, they've kind of done their job. Obviously, if they can get the ball off entirely, that's even better, but it's a bit of a wait and see. And again, there's a few techniques, and I kind of just talked about it earlier. We're looking for the defender to have their stick nice and low, all right, to ideally have their feet at a 45-degree angle. And what I mean by that, and apologies, I can't get the camera to show my feet, but we're trying to not get them to stand square. We're trying to get them to have their body in a certain direction so that they can push accordingly. And they're just going to try and get their stick nice and low, keep their stick on the ground, and try and get the attacking player to move away from that gate. And that's really what we're trying to do here. So we're just trying to get that player to not get through this gate, to defend that first and foremost. And this is going to involve a lot of technical correction. And what I mean by technical correction is explaining to players, yeah, what did you do right? What did you do well? All right, so talk to your players as they come through. Maybe a defender comes up here and they're too far over here. And we need to explain to them, well, hang on, don't you want to be trying to defend this? All right. And the key here is, and this is really important for channeling, is that you don't actually have to, your players don't have to make a tackle. Sorry, your players don't have to make a tackle for it to be successful. All right. By just having their body in position, holding their stick down, and making sure that they move the player away, then that's the success of this. All right. So this is a really good one, particularly if you've got a player who maybe isn't the strongest tackler, but really wants to play as a defender. This is where you can utilize this skill, and channeling is great, particularly for left and right fullbacks when it comes to playing hockey. So have a look to see who's strong there and see what you can do. This is a really great skill, and it doesn't matter what age you are, it's a useful one to understand and to utilize early on. All right, from there we go back into our game. So with play 2, we're always trying to see if we can take the technical correction and take the things that we learned in our drill and actually apply it to the game. All right, so go back into the game and see if this time if we have better examples of channeling and highlight that. Right, so maybe sometimes stop the game and explain, oh, Johnny did a great job there. Johnny, what did you do to try and channel that away, or how did you stop that from being a 3-point goal, and things like that? So we're really looking to make that correction, highlight what's good, correct what's bad. That's our channeling session, guys, and so hopefully it's going to be a good one for you. Just a quick note, I am doing 14 lesson plans over 14 weeks. This has been number 5, and always remember to play, practice, play.